football because I said we'd talk about football. So here we go. Let's talk about the NFL, Cedric. We're 4 weeks into this thing. We're started to see the teams that are good, the teams that are not. Who's the first coach that's getting bounced this year? Who do you think is out before this year's even over?
I know the first one I hope gets bounced is Jay Gruden from the Redskins. I just think he's horrible. He's just, his whole career to me has just been, even when they were good, he had Robert Griffin III out there on one leg in a playoff game, didn't look out for his kid, and Robert ruins his knee, and they give Robert the gate. And then at the beginning of this season, Adrian Peterson, who's one of the greatest running backs ever, is a healthy scratch. You're the Washington Redskins. You don't healthy scratch Adrian Peterson. You're not good enough to healthy scratch AD. I just thought it was bad, and his whole handling of this quarterback thing has been horrific. He's one of the worst coaches in the league, and I think he's the head coach largely because he served his apprenticeship as an offensive coordinator, and also because he's John Gruden's brother.
Yeah.
So I just think that he's probably going to get the gate first. Daniel Steiner might not pull the trigger, but I know he should.
Yeah, and I think Jay Gruden is probably the top of my list. But you've talked about the Texans before, Cedric, and they're still struggling. I wonder if Bill O'Brien, are they going to eventually look at maybe a change there? The Falcons have not been any good. I know that the Falcons are a really quality run organization from the top down, but is Dan Quinn potentially a guy that could get looked at? I don't know, but there's definitely some teams. Now, the Dolphins are trying to be bad, which frankly I think is a travesty that we've seen tanking in other sports, but Cedric, tanking in football when guys are so vulnerable to injury, I mean, that whole thing turns my stomach, but we know that they're not really trying to be that good. But Falcons, the Texans, I mean, there's a lot of teams that we thought were going to be good that really aren't that great. But I agree. I think Jay Gruden's probably the top candidate because they're not trying to be that bad, and they're just terrible. But I wonder if a couple of those other coaches might be in the mix too to get an early dismissal. We talk about who's not doing well. Who is doing well, Cedric? MVP candidates. I know everybody's looking to Pat Mahomes. Is he your early MVP top spot guy right now?
If he doesn't get hurt, he's going to win the MVP again. That's how great he's been. Now, they got hit in the mouth in Detroit last week, but he still figured out a way to get him a win. 4th and 8, and he scrambles for a first down, gets him the win. He's the easy choice. How about Dakota Rain Prescott, the quarterback of your Dallas Cowboys? Dak Prescott's having himself a season, yeah. Jen. He is playing really well. He's in a year where he knows that he's about to get paid, and he's outperforming his rookie deal. He's at the helm of one of the better, most balanced teams in the league. I knew the Saints were going to beat him. That happens. No one's going to run the table in this league. So I think Dak Prescott, I think Patrick Mahomes, those are the two early candidates for MVP. I know it sounds like a broken record. Tom Brady in New England has them doing New England type things. So yeah. Those are my three. And let's keep it real. The MVP award is largely gone the way of the Heisman Trophy. It's a quarterback-driven award. So yeah. Those are definitely my top three candidates to win this MVP.
It's interesting you bring up the Heisman because the only thing I can think about with Pat Mahomes that, like you say, I mean, I know we're early, but if the trajectory continues, you got to think he's the guy again. I wonder if, like, some Heisman voters, if a guy wins it and then he doesn't do as much the next year, I think a lot of Heisman voters are remiss to say, well, I'm going to vote him at the top again if he didn't have as good a year. Is that at all a thought in your mind, said when it comes to Pat Mahomes? Like, does he need to not only play great, but even play better than he did a year ago? Could that impact any voters in your mind?
It could, but I think it would be unfair to Patrick because he's playing within himself. Is he going to throw 50 touchdowns again? I don't think so. Tyreek Hill has been hurt, and You guys know that name in Oklahoma. Tyreek Hill has been hurt. He's just started running again. He's got a collarbone issue, and he thinks he's ready, but the doctors haven't cleared him. So that combination was just downright electric last season. So he's had to figure out a way to win with the other options at his disposal, the Travis Kelce's, the Demarcus Robinsons, the Mecole Hardmans, those kind of guys. So Mahomes is at the controls of the most devastating offense in football. Andy Reid is playing, letting it all hang out, and I just think it's fun to watch. I don't know that he has to throw 50 touchdowns again, Jen, but if he's at 40 to 45 and the Chiefs go to special places, like I believe they are, I think they're going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this winter. He's got to be the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He's must-see TV, and that's a lot in my mind of, what you never quite know what you're going to see from him. Just such a fun player to watch. Lastly, before we leave the NFL, let's talk Rookie of the Year for a second. Again, only 4 weeks in, Cedric, but it seems as though Josh Jacobs, the former Alabama running back who's now with the Raiders, has kind of elevated himself to the top of the Rookie of the Year talk. Is he your guy in those in that debate?
I really like him. I like him a lot. I think that he has a chance to be really special on a bad team, and that's difficult to do. Miles Sanders with Philly has had his problems. Dwayne Haskins just took over at quarterback for the Redskins. My guy is Daniel Jones, New York Giants quarterback. The Eli Manning era is apparently at an end, and Daniel Jones is growing on the job. He's already shown us that he can spin it, Jen. He can toss that pigskin. He doesn't have great receivers at his disposal. I like me some Sterling Shepard. We watched a lot of Sterling Shepard over the years in our part of the country, but I think with Saquon Barkley being hurt and coming back soon, Daniel Jones has shown that he's not afraid. He's stood tall in the pocket. He's got the talent. And now we know why the New York Giants took him so early in the draft.
Yeah, definitely some intriguing guys. One that really was lightning in the bottle week one was Marquise Brown, a guy that we know around these parts, former Oklahoma receiver with the Ravens. And
I think we call him Hollywood.
Hollywood, that's the one. Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be in the conversation, but the Ravens are going to have to figure out some ways to get him the ball. I think, you hate to say that, scoring 2 touchdowns in your first NFL game is a bad thing, but I think it was such a head turner for so many NFL defenses that now they're trying to figure out ways to limit Hollywood Brown, to keep the ball out of his hands. The Ravens are going to have to continue to look for, new ways to really, use his talent. They've got a lot of guys, tight ends that can do great things, but he's such a field stretcher. You got to figure out a way to allow him to work. Again, early on, such success. I think now defenses are saying,
Dolphins, Jen.
We're not
the Dolphins.
Yeah, we're not going to let this guy beat us like he beat him in week one. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch develop.